Today's horror manga dub in narration is The Black House from the horror anthology Kuro Ihan. If you enjoy the story at any point in time, please do not hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Anyways, without further ado, let's get right into The Black House. I hope you all enjoy. Our story begins up in a tree where some sort of crow or raven is preying upon a poor white cat. The horrific sight continues, but that's when two men in a car say, "Boss, look over there!" Yuck, looks like that crow up there is eating a kitten.
Hey, I'm trying to eat here, knock it off!
My bad.
I run a small contracting firm in Saitama. That day, we had arrived at an apartment complex B in the Tokyo suburbs. The young couple who lived there had asked us to renovate their entire apartment. We had 2 days. With just me and Takada, a rookie, the labor was quite tough. Just when the end was in sight, the woman called to me. "Excuse me?" Yes, miss? What can I do for you? That was when I saw her with my rookie. She said,
"Please send this employee away."
What did you do, Takada? Did he damage your furniture?
"No, I just do not want him here any longer," she asserted.
Excuse me, miss. If this guy did anything to upset you, then...
"Just get him away from here!"
she screamed. Takada and I didn't know what to think. We could only but agree. Okay. And that was the end of it. I sent Takada to another job site and completed the rest of the work myself. Had to work my ass off. I somehow managed to finish everything myself by the end of that second day. But something made me feel a little uneasy. That strange woman looked over at me and smiled. Sweat dripped down my cheek. That evening, I questioned Takada about what occurred. He told me an eerie story.
"So, we were covering everything with vinyl tarps to make sure we didn't hurt any of their stuff, right? Well, I was working in this one Japanese-style tatami room, and there was this dresser thing that had been already covered up, right? So I thought that it must have been so valuable that our clients had covered it themselves. But that was when I heard rustling from underneath it, slowly approached, and the rustling continued. Then, as I took a closer look inspecting it, I slowly moved the tarp off. What I saw... inside that tarp was an open dresser with a raven flapping inside, tied to the top of the dresser. What the hell? Why is a crow hanging from their altar? The crow moved at a miraculous speed, spewing blood about everywhere as it dripped into a plate below. That was when I heard the woman's voice from behind me. She screamed to get out. As I took a closer look, she told me to leave the room at once. And so, that's what happened. Hey, boss, don't look at me like that. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, okay. Anyway,
I know you're not the type to show up drunk to work.
I don't know what it really was you saw in there, but that job is over. None of it matters anymore. That night, Takada took the company van home. The next day, Takada didn't show up for work. He wouldn't pick up his cell phone either. But that was when I received a call. It was Takada.
Ugh! Takada, where the hell are you?
But what I heard from the phone was a bunch of crow-like noises, and intertwined was...
Boss, help me!
And then everything went silent. After that call, Takada seemed to have vanished. A month later, the company van was found way up in the mountains, stranded, with a flock of crows all around it. They found Takada inside. Something, probably crows, had been feasting on what was left of his corpse. After all, there were black feathers scattered all about the interior. Some days later, I had a trade association dinner. I told them this story. I learned that many of my colleagues shared eerie feelings about that apartment complex. Even though the complex was full of rather young couples, many of these fledgling households seemed to be wealthy enough to be able to afford fancy shrines. Although, no one else had seen a headless crow dangling from any of the others. Something was off about that couple. One fellow had seen something weird in a nearby park. One day when he was on a work call, he looked behind him and he saw a baby all alone in a carriage fast asleep. He continued his work, tying things down and working in the back of the van, but when he peered behind him, a bunch of crows started attacking the baby.
Hey, no!
But that was when a girl's voice called from behind him. Please excuse me. The girl slowly approached. I had only looked away for a second. Thank you very much. The worker couldn't help but feel uneasy. Something was off about this mother. Another fellow had been there when a man fell to his death. His brains splattered against the ground, and all that remained was a black crow feather. Everyone was completely shocked. Why is he here?
Boss, you know this guy?
And the group of them continued to explain how their boss filled in what happened later, and that it turned out the dead guy was this higher up in a big construction company that used to send us some jobs every once in a while. It seemed he had planned to level the complex and redevelop the whole area from the ground up. I only felt more uneasy as I heard the story. He continued, explaining the weirdest part about it was that the door to the roof was chained shut, and that there wasn't any sign on the roof that he had jumped off or met an accident. So, in other words, he must have been in one of the apartments, right? And so, the real question we all had was whether he fell out, or whether he was pushed out. An old man continued another story.
No, I remember hearing a weird story about 10 years ago or so, about a young guy working over there. He went over to change some locks and found the body of this guy who had been left alone in his apartment. And so this dead guy's body burned up, gets up and starts walking right towards him.
Don't be stupid. Something that crazy could never happen.
Don't be so sure we're talking about that complex. Even something like a dead man walking doesn't sound so impossible. We now open to a scene where our protagonist is driving in his company van, and that is when he gets to a familiar sight. The next day, I was traveling from job site to job site, past that apartment complex and stopped my car. It felt like something was going on in there. I saw a black crow swoop around the top levels of the apartment complex. The more I eyed it up, the more I saw they were entering inside. They opened the porch doors to let the crows in. I looked back and forth, around everywhere. I should be able to see what's going on from up there, and so I slammed on the gas, making my way toward that higher point as the crows continued to flap inside. Little did I know, the residents of that apartment complex looked at me with a sinister look. When I arrived, there was even more crows. Shit, that's far! I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, maybe with the zoom on this thing. And so, I zoomed in and saw something I could not believe. Those crows were creating some sort of anthropomorphic entity. Something weird was surely coming from inside that apartment complex. But when I finally saw what it was no anthropomorphic entity, but rather a man hung upside down, his flesh being devoured by those gruesome ravens. And then one of the girls looked at me, and my phone immediately shattered. Holy crap! And then I heard a thump from in front of my car. It was one of those black crows. It began to stare at me, and I stared at it, its eyes looking into my eyes. And then I heard more noise from above the van. The thumping continued like crazy, crashing against the top. I didn't know what to do. Then I looked back in front of me, and that crow began to caw. The crows, perching on the roof of my van, let forth one loud shriek, as though signaling that something was about to start.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. I'd like to take this time to give a very special thanks to my Patreons and YouTube members. Sarah De Jesus, Motosurf, Leo, Dason Animus, Myuu, Rich Harris, Andre Wolf, Tanya M, Kago, and Voodoo. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, you're important and you matter. Have a good night, everyone. Goodbye.